Right now in the world, we are facing so many trials, so many difficulties. We are facing a world pandemic. But what is scary and what is sad to see is that beyond whatever health problems or financial problems may exist, people, regardless of what they are experiencing, what they are going through, too many people are not helping each other. Instead, we are seeing the world struggling with a pandemic, but the world is also struggling because instead of going about and doing good, helping, lifting, serving, sacrificing, and giving to others, people are trying to tear each other down. Others are physically tearing buildings down, looting, destroying public property, and destroying private property. Others are trying to deface national monuments, or trying to, in their words, protest. And whereas they began peacefully protesting, now they are violently attacking anyone who does not agree or believe with their views. It's a very difficult and dark worldview, but it does not need to be that way. We can go about doing good, serving others, helping everyone around us. Welcome to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast. I am your host, Jerald Simon. I am the founder of Music Motivation and the creator of the Cool Songs Club. Today's podcast is titled, Much is Expected of Those to Whom Much is Given. And it's about more than an expectation. It's about the gifts we have been given, the talents we have developed, the knowledge we have acquired, the individual and personal progression we have personally achieved as we have overcome trials and tribulations, as we have stifled our own personal struggles, as we have looked for the good while dealing with the bad. You see, each of us has something that we can give to society, that we can give to the world, that we can give to our families, our spouse, our parents, our children. We each have something we can give to the world. Benjamin Franklin has always been an example of mine. When I was a teenager, I began studying everything about Benjamin Franklin, about his life. I began studying and reading everything about Leonardo da Vinci. Now, truthfully, both of these men were left-handed, and I am left-handed, and I felt drawn to them. They both were considered to be Renaissance men, men who had many different interests. And it's interesting, because Benjamin Franklin, if you have not yet read the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin by Benjamin Franklin, you need to read that book in his own words. He talks about his life, but he talks about the 13 virtues he began working on. And he spent his entire life working on those 13 virtues. But every morning, Benjamin Franklin asked a question of himself. He asked himself, what good shall I do this day? And then every evening, he asked another question to himself. And he would ask himself, what good have I done today? So those were the two questions. In the morning, he asked himself, what good shall I do this day? And in the evening, he asked himself, what good have I done today? It's interesting because we all can do so much good with the time we have. And that time is so precious and priceless. Most people avoid opportunity. They wait for someone to tell them what to do instead of doing what should be done. Far too many people avoid opportunities because they are not willing to do what it takes to sacrifice what is needed to be sacrificed at that moment to overcome whatever objections are presented before them. And because of that, they avoid opportunities they could and should have. In my book, Perceptions, Parables, and Pointers, the positive perception for this week is found on page 32. This is what it says. Most people avoid opportunities because of the obligations associated with each opportunity. As one's intelligence increases, so does their responsibility. The greater their capacity, the more demanding is or should be their contribution to society. Much is expected to those to whom much is given. The better educated a person becomes and strives to be, necessitates their personal outreach to help those in their community receive the best possible education they can. When an individual becomes more financially successful, he or she should seek to enrich the lives of those around them. It's about giving back to our neighbors, the community, our country, and the world. Once we have climbed out of any problematic pit, we must do everything within our power to help ourselves first and also help those around us, family, friends, neighbors, and everyone we meet. If you think about it, it is about going about and doing good. Think about that sentence. Right now in the world, we are facing so many trials, so many difficulties. We are facing a world pandemic. But what is scary and what is sad to see is that beyond whatever health problems or financial problems may exist, people, regardless of what they are experiencing, what they are going through, too many people are not helping each other. Instead, we are seeing the world struggling with a pandemic, but the world is also struggling because instead of going about and doing good, helping, lifting, serving, sacrificing, and giving to others, people are trying to tear each other down. Others are physically tearing buildings down, looting, destroying public property, and destroying private property. Others are trying to deface national monuments, or trying to, in their words, protest. And whereas they began peacefully protesting, now they are violently attacking anyone who does not agree or believe with their views. It's a very difficult and dark worldview, but it does not need to be that way. We can go about doing good, serving others, helping everyone around us. For the Motivation in a Minute section of this podcast, I would like to read one of my favorite quotes. It is titled, "Do All the Good You Can," and then it goes on. It's on page 175 from my book, Perceptions, Parables, and Pointers. This is by John Wesley. Let me read this to you. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. John Wesley. Think about that for a moment. How do we go about doing good? What does it entail? Even when we have an opinion that differs from someone else, I have seen, unfortunately, as many of you have also seen, individuals on social media or in the newspaper, in the press, who are attacking each other because of their differences of opinions or their different views. Because even though we live in a free country where freedom of speech is a right, so many people think that only allows them to freely speak. And if anyone else speaks freely, then they believe they must do everything they can to dissuade or persuade other people to view what they view, to think as they think, to act as they act. In a free world, it's wonderful that we can have opinions, that we can have different beliefs, different views, different values even. But we must defend the right for everyone to speak openly and speak freely, to not be censored, to not feel as if they cannot speak their mind, and to not feel as if when they do speak their mind, they will be attacked or shamed by friends, neighbors, associates, or even strangers on social media who don't even know them, but think somehow their opinion is the only opinion that matters. Their view is the only view which should be looked at or thought about. And it's interesting because this is so deceptive, divisive. It's dividing families. It's dividing the country, the nation, the world. But if instead we would come together and go about doing good, if we would teach each other, not by trying to preach to each other, but if we would teach by example, leading by example, learning from each other, always being kind to each other, never putting anyone down, never being negative. It's interesting because we can be positive and still be a realist. But so many pessimists believe that you can only be true and be a realist by being negative. I am here to tell you that optimistic people know how difficult situations can be. They know how dark the world can get. They know how wrong and how bad and how terrible the trials and tribulations that every single individual in life has or will experience. And yet, the optimistic individuals choose to focus on the light instead of the darkness. They decide to look for the good instead of dwelling on all of the bad. They have made the choice to be positive when they could have made the choice or decision to be negative. Instead, they chose to be uplifting, edifying, to be kind to each other, to help each other, instead of trying to tear each other down, instead of trying to make others feel less important, less valued, instead of trying to put others' ideas down. These optimistic individuals know that as we strengthen each other, as we validate each other, as we help each other, as we go about doing good, good things will happen. We do not need to tear down beliefs, religions, values, ideas, or actual buildings as a way to demonstrate or have our voice be heard, because the voice of your actions speaks much louder than whatever message you are trying to convey. Instead of what you say, what you have done has destroyed any attempt for rational, good, God-fearing people to believe in what you say, because they cannot believe that the message individuals are trying to proclaim to others matches up with the actions being done and performed. There is a divide, and that divide is something that we must bridge. We must bridge the gaps. How do we do that? We must go about doing good. And again, it goes back to much is expected of those to whom much is given. We have not only an opportunity to be good, we have an obligation to be good, to do good, and to help others. Look for the good in everyone and everything. For the Music Within portion of this podcast, we are going to listen to Destiny. This is an instrumental piano solo that I composed from my album, The Dawn of a New Age. Let's listen to this. For the poetry that motivates portion of this podcast, I would like to read The Weary Warrior on page 17 from my book, The As If Principle, Motivational Poetry. This is what it says. The weary warrior. What befalls the weary warrior, who willfully falls to the battle's tale? Without exerting the forces to fight, he willingly wishes to fail. Warriors are fighters who never give up, who advance to the battle's front, unafraid to fight for what is right and willing to carry the brunt. They give their all to the cause, crusaders noble and pure, undaunted by pain unrelenting, survivors who always endure. But what befalls the straggling soldier who slips away from the captain's view and struggles to do what he's asked to do? When faced with decisions of right and wrong, the soldier succumbs with the wicked throng. But warriors will always be warriors, even if they retreat. Don't despair, for in the end, they're victorious, for each is a noble heir. We are all warriors. At times we are weary warriors, because life is a battle. The battlefield of every day at times can be unbearable, because it is overbearing and we feel that pressure. We feel as if we have so much expected of us, those expectations, either that we give ourselves or that are imposed upon us, can at times crush us if we are not careful. But we must realize that much is expected of those to whom much is given, because we have an opportunity when we learn more, when we do more, when we accomplish more, when we become more, because of the books we have read, because of the life lessons we have learned, because of the trials we have overcome, the tribulations and struggles that we have gone through, because of the sorrow, the heartache, the frustration, because of the many failures that we have experienced in life and overcome. We have progressed, we have improved, we have been strengthened, and as we are strengthened, we have a greater understanding, not only of what life is about and what has happened and what can possibly happen to everyone, but we have a greater appreciation for the good, because we've experienced the bad, and we don't want to focus on negativity. We want to embrace positivity, and we want to help others. Anyone can complain. Anyone can get angry and get upset. Anyone can scream and yell and get frustrated. It takes no control. It takes no thought. Anyone can lose control at any given time and lash out at their neighbor. They can tear down a statue. They can destroy a monument. They can scream and yell on social media or at their neighbors and family and friends. They can bully others. They can kick and scream and fight. And that takes no self-control. In fact, it almost takes more effort to go about doing bad than it does to go about doing good. It takes more work. It takes more diligence, and it's more strenuous. It's more of a struggle. It's more of a terrible, horrific trap. It's a terrible plan. And what happens is, as we become sucked into this horrible state of mind, the world does become darker. We do become more pessimistic. We do look to the bad and focus on the bad because it's all we think about. Unfortunately, that leads to mistrusting others, that distrust. It leads to fear. It leads to apathy. And when we have isolation and apathy, where you just don't care, that is when you stop waking up and asking, what good shall I do this day? So it is my hope that every morning as we arise, we will do as Benjamin Franklin suggests, that we will be our best, that we will ask, what good shall I do this day? And then, throughout the day, go about doing good, helping others, serving, smiling, being kind, being cheerful, being positive and optimistic in every situation, working hard, doing our best, having goals, accomplishing, progressing, and improving. And as we do so, in the evening, before we retire and go to bed, we can ask the second question that Benjamin Franklin suggests we ask. What good have I done today? We can ask the second question Benjamin Franklin suggests we ask. What good have I done today? We can ask the second question Benjamin Franklin suggests. What good have I done today? And then I would also encourage you to ask 2 questions of yourself. In every situation, in every experience, all throughout the day, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And then, how can I improve? Those are the questions. What good shall I do this day? What can I learn from this experience? How can I improve and be better? And then at the end of the day, what good have I done today? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you have a wonderful week. Every day, go about doing good, being your best, and striving to be better. That is all anyone can ask. That is all we can focus on and strive to become, is to be better today than we were yesterday. Have a great rest of your week. Until next time, do your best. Learn as much as you can and have fun. Thanks for listening, guys. See you. Bye. Subscribe to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast with Jerald Simon, to receive updates about each new weekly podcast. Every Monday, a new podcast is released to help motivate and inspire individuals to learn, to grow, to do, to be, and become the very best they can become. These are all motivational messages that inspire men and women of all ages to do and be their best, to set goals, to work on improving who they are and who they would like to become. Thank you again for listening. Connect with us on social media to become part of the conversation as we all work together to motivate each other to do and be our best. Thanks for listening to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast. I am your host, Jerald Simon, and I'm grateful to have you listen to this podcast. Every Monday we come out with a brand new podcast, and you can listen to it on any of the podcast streaming sites available. Just search for Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast with Jerald Simon. Any of the music that I've shared in these podcasts, you can listen to. All of my music is available on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Amazon, and any streaming site available. You can also check out my music books at musicmotivation.com, and you can find my poetry, self-help, and motivational books available from Amazon.com, from Barnes & Noble, and from all different online shops and stores. If you have any questions about the music that I create through my company, Music Motivation, you can learn more at musicmotivation.com, and you can visit my website, coolsongsclub.com, to learn more about how I create fun, cool piano music that helps motivate piano students to want to play the piano the fun way, especially during their teenage years. I'd love to have you check that out. But thank you again for listening. Please feel free to connect with me on any of the social media sites out there. You can watch my YouTube videos on youtube.com/Jerald Simon. You can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all social media sites at Jerald Simon. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep up the great work and have fun. See you guys. Bye.